Home. Home is the foundation of a healthy, stable life. We all benefit from living in a community where each person lives with the dignity and stability that comes with home. A healthy community is one in which everyone has a safe place to be. Homelessness, housing instability, and housing insecurity threaten the health of our neighborhoods and get in the way of our neighbors' ability to live their lives and contribute to our community. There is a full range of services at work in our community to ensure that people are able to reach their full potential, from early childhood education to accessible transportation, from community clinics to economic development, from K-12 education to clean air and water, from senior centers to sidewalks. Similarly, a range of housing solutions are needed to maintain a healthy community. There has to be a safe place for everyone in order for there to be a safe place for everyone to be. But we know that on any given night, there are more than 500 people in Washington County that don't have a permanent, safe place to be, and hundreds more that are facing housing insecurity and housing instability. We know that earnings across the county have increased 17% in the last 5 years, while rents have increased 49%. We know that about 45% of our renting households make less than $50,000 a year, and 80% of them pay more than a third of their income each month to maintain their housing, and 47% spend half their income just to stay housed. And we know that this gap between what people have and what they need creates a math problem that makes it hard for families to stay housed. Month after month, families from Washington County seek assistance to meet their basic needs for housing, food, and utilities. We also know that there are effective strategies and interventions that can be scaled to reduce and eliminate homelessness. This video focuses on two of them: prevention and rehousing. First, prevention. If you have a home, we want you to keep it. And rehousing. If you are outside or in emergency shelter, we want to help you get a home as quickly as possible. There is a bit of overlap here that we refer to as diversion. Diversion is a set of strategies that focuses on keeping people who are experiencing a housing crisis out of the homeless services system. Diversion includes such services as creative problem-solving conversations, connecting with community resources and family supports, housing search and placement, and flexible financial assistance to help people resolve their immediate housing crisis. Because diversion activities are so broad and varied in scope, they can be performed by multiple segments of the Human Services Network, or even through informal community networks. And because prevention and rehousing resources in the community are limited, there is some diversion work taking place in both the prevention and rehousing spheres. Because we believe that the best way to end homelessness is not to have people become homeless in the first place, we will start by talking about prevention. The issuance of a 72-hour eviction notice for non-payment of rent is the first indicator of a serious housing crisis and the earliest critical intervention point. By intervening at this point, resources are targeted to those most in need. For most renters, monthly rent payments are due on the 1st of each month and late on the 5th. If a renter has not paid by the 8th, a 72-hour eviction notice for non-payment of rent can be issued. Because most renters are receiving their 72-hour notices at the same time, the highest volume of people seeking emergency assistance is concentrated around the 8th of each month. In order to handle the influx of emergency rent callers and respond quickly enough to stop the eviction, Community Action deploys a team of 5 people to answer calls for assistance until all available emergency funds are committed. The phone system can handle 13 incoming calls at a time. People who are calling when all the incoming lines are occupied will get a busy signal. We encourage people to continue calling until they get through. Callers speak to community resource advocates, verify that they have a lease in their name and a 72-hour notice, and then schedule a time to come in to complete their application. Families are seen within 2 business days at either our Beaverton, Hillsborough, or starting in 2019, Tigard locations. Once all funds are committed, the line is closed and all callers are informed via recorded message that there is no assistance remaining. Knowing with certainty that they will not be receiving assistance allows the family to focus on a plan B and eliminates the frustration of uncertainty. All households that are able to be assisted receive a payment of no more than 1 month's rent. The assistance is paid directly to the landlord. Community Action staff contacts the landlord and negotiates on the client's behalf for forgiveness of fees or back rent that may have accrued. By accepting payment, the landlord certifies that they will not proceed with the eviction. All families are also assessed for eligibility for energy assistance. If the household qualifies, they receive assistance with their energy bill at the same time, providing additional budget relief for the family to stabilize. Finally, all households are offered a Community Action Resource Eligibility Assessment to determine eligibility for any other services that are available through Community Action, including Head Start, professional development or career coaching services, energy conservation, emergency food assistance, or Oregon Health Plan enrollment assistance. Once all assessments have been completed and the eviction stopped, the information collected in the appointment is forwarded to the Community Action Housing Team. Community Action Housing Specialists review the assessments using a standardized scoring criteria to determine what households, if any, are most in need of additional assistance to end their housing crisis and prevent a new episode of homelessness. Households with significant rental arrears or whose income in the coming month will not be sufficient to pay rent are referred to any available longer-term assistance programs with no additional assessment or intake required. Whenever possible, households will be assisted to remain in their existing units. In the event that the family's housing has simply become unaffordable to them for the foreseeable future, the family will be assisted to find and secure a more affordable unit, thereby preventing an eviction once the temporary assistance ends. In 2018, Community Action's prevention programs helped keep 569 households, representing 38 seniors over the age of 62 and 251 children under 5, from losing their homes. Roughly $930,000 of prevention assistance was invested directly back into the community, including $214,000 of rental arrears to bring households current on their rent and reduce the risk of future collections activity, protecting the family's credit and rental history so that they can continue to move forward. Despite this investment in keeping people in their homes, 46% of the total verified demand for prevention assistance went unmet. While it is difficult to verify a causal relationship between the investment in prevention and the steady decline of homeless populations in Washington County, there is evidence to suggest that there is a strong correlation between the level of assistance available and the numbers of evictions filed. In 7 of the past 9 years, there has been a statistically measurable correlation between the level of emergency assistance available and the number of evictions filed. Generally speaking, when there is more emergency assistance available, there are fewer evictions. Since we aren't currently able to prevent all experiences of homelessness, our community has a variety of programs that combine housing and housing assistance with different levels and types of support services to help people who are outside or in shelter into permanent homes of their own. These programs are operated by multiple agencies and are focused on serving specific populations. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is the primary funder for these programs and requires that each community has a coordinated entry system to make accessing services easier, more fair, and more efficient to help communities prioritize assistance based on vulnerability and identify service needs and gaps in the community's ability to respond to homelessness. Coordinated entry systems shift the focus from the needs of the housing programs to the needs of the people who need the housing. Without a coordinated entry system, accessing housing looks like this. With a coordinated entry system, accessing housing looks like this. Community Connect is our homeless service continuum's coordinated entry process. Community Connect is not a housing program. Developed in collaboration with all providers of housing and supportive services for individuals and families experiencing homelessness in Washington County, Community Connect is our agreed-upon process for engaging people who are homeless and measuring vulnerability so that we can target our limited resources to those who are most in need of assistance, and then connect them to the most appropriate available rehousing program. People can access Community Connect in a variety of ways. Through engaging with a street outreach provider, through accessing emergency shelter, or through calling the Community Connect phone line. Once connected, a trained provider completes the Community Connect assessment, either in a single assessment interview or bit by bit over time, whatever works best for the individual. The assessment is scored to determine vulnerability level and target population match. If an appropriate housing resource is available, the family is connected directly to the provider agency for an intake. In 2018, 2,287 families contacted Community Connect, and 1,833 completed a Community Connect assessment. 999, or 55% of those assessments, resulted in a housing program placement. Community Connect is effective at connecting people to available resources. It is not, however, a housing resource itself. While everyone who contacts Community Connect can complete an assessment and receive information about the homelessness services system and community resources, there are simply more people seeking assistance than programs and housing opportunities. The information that is collected through Community Connect has helped our continuum to identify gaps, prioritize limited resources, and advocate for increased investment in addressing our unmet needs. From street outreach and emergency shelter to rent assistance, permanent supportive housing, and affordable housing development, there is no strategy that can end homelessness overnight, and no single system or entity that can end homelessness on its own. Ensuring the health and well-being of our community requires all of us to be informed about the economic and social challenges that drive housing instability, housing insecurity, and homelessness, to work collaboratively to make sure our systems and processes do not add to the burdens of people who are struggling, and to restore the dignity and stability of home to all of our neighbors. Together, we can build a community where everyone has a safe place to be.